because there's a difference between being honest and telling the truth. Being honest is, oh, I feel like I'm fat, let's say. I don't know, like that's honest. But telling the truth is, I have 5 pounds I need to lose, right? That's telling the truth. I think that a lot of times people sort of stop at being honest, right? You need to tell the truth.
That's Kalika Yap, and this is the Powerful Ladies podcast. Hey guys, I'm your host, Cara Duffy. When you cross paths with someone extraordinary, you notice it right away. The space they create, the tallness with which they stand, the generosity in how they approach the world. Today's guest, Kalika Yap, is just that type of extraordinary, powerful lady. She's a serial entrepreneur, author of the Little Brand Book, wife and mother, who is on a mission to leave the world a better place and create a legacy that changes lives. In this episode, we discuss how her entrepreneurial journey began, where she's attained her groundedness and wisdom, the opportunities she experiences as a leader in the AAPI community, and so much more. Get ready to be wowed. I want you to know that you have so many gifts to share with the world. You deserve to be living a life with intention that you love and that is making the difference you know you're capable of. I created the Powerful Ladies Thrive membership and community to give you a space and a network to see your brilliance and your power and take actions to start living the life that you want. As a member of Thrive, you have access to a business coach, weekly group coaching, covering everything from mindset, time management, and communication, as well, of course, as fundamental business skills. Plus, there's a resource center filled with tips, tricks, and checklists to get you to where you want to go faster. Most importantly in Thrive, you have a global community of fellow powerful women who are building a life and businesses of their own design right along with you. Visit thepowerfulladies.com to join today and start living into your amazing destiny. Kalika, I am so excited to have you on the Powerful Ladies podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cara. So excited to be here.
We had such a great time when you came on for our Powerful Conversation series about Stop Asian Hate. And of course, you're so well known for the Little Brand Book. I think our audience is going to get so much from today's conversation. Let's begin by please telling everyone who you are and what you're up to in the world.
My name is Kalika Yap. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm an inventor. I invented the purse hook. I also own a waxing salon in Honolulu. I have 2 branding agencies, Citrus Studios and Orange and Bergamot. Citrus Studios focuses on large brands, purpose-driven companies, while Orange and Bergamot really focuses on the creative female entrepreneur. My goal is to help 1 million female founders make at least $1 million in revenue and create 1 million jobs, but with clarity, focus, ease, and grace. And I am also a podcaster with the Entrepreneurs Organization. Our podcast is called Wonder. And I think that's it. Yeah. And I'm the author of the Little Brand Book, like you mentioned earlier. It was published by HarperCollins. And what I'm up to is also being a mom to 2 entrepreneurial girls. They have their company called Conscious Kids Cookies. And my husband works in the company, and we're just enjoying life, and it's a privilege to be alive today.
Yes, especially after this year. How great is it to have the entire family be entrepreneurial?
Absolutely. I think everyone should try it. Entrepreneurship is a relentless and constant teacher. And I think that it gives you it just challenges you in a way that allows you to grow. So I would really highly recommend it for anyone who's deciding.
There are so many people listening who are thinking about creating a business, or they've started and they keep getting stuck, or they've been in business for decades. With your experience in branding and marketing, where do you think people make the most mistakes in figuring out their brand and their brand identity?
Well, I think that the purpose of life is really to discover our own special light. I think that before, I think a lot of times people jump too quickly into it before discovering who they are. They also copy other people, rather than looking internally. And if we are really here, if our purpose really here is to discover our own special light, our own special purpose, our brand should reflect that specialness of who they are. So I think the biggest mistake is not knowing who you are, what you're meant to do, and why you're here.
And some of those questions are such big questions for people, right? Like I often have people say, like, how do I know if I should be an entrepreneur or not? What have you done to figure out more of your purpose or, the gifts and the light that you have to give the world?
I think what I've done is really discovered my standards of integrity, my core values, the values that I show up in every single day. And I know that you had mentioned that, it feels really big and daunting, but once you do it, life becomes so much easier. You don't have to decide every day whether or not I'm going to live in integrity. I'm not going to, I don't have to decide if I'm going to show up and be all in. I don't have to decide to be remarkable. I don't have to decide to make lemonade out of lemons. I don't have to decide to change the world because I already made that decision, and it's easier to make decisions. So while it may seem daunting, it is the first step into leading an extraordinary life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Even in my corporate life, I always had 4 factors that I was choosing if I would go to a new job. And usually they had nothing to do with the actual job itself. It was how is it going to enhance my life? How is it going to help the other goals that I had? How would it allow me to be in the spaces that allow me to thrive? And, for anyone who's taken Strength Finder, always and always, my number one thing is learning. Like if I get to learn something new or have engaging conversations and feel that growth happening, I'm happy. And so that was always a big one for me, even before, doing entrepreneurship full time.
It's the right place when if you value learning, they also value learning. They're aligned with your values. The right place values you.
Yes. And it allows you to be you in more ways. There's, a personal opinion of mine is that there's such a breakdown in people being misaligned. And that's where so much of the anger and frustration and fears come from in this world, is like, we're not actually doing what we're supposed to be doing, or surrounding ourselves by people who allow us, as you said, to be our light and to explore that and shine brightly. And part of why we've created Powerful Ladies and all the things I do is because I want to help people make that bridge, like live intentionally, live in a place of choosing.
They also have their own answers within them as well, too. I think the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is that, I'm going to have, as a coach, I'm the one that's going to have your answers, because the reality is you've lived a different life than I have, and you have a different type of wisdom than I have. And I think when you acknowledge that the person that is listening or the person that is showing up to your sessions or your podcasts, that they have their own specialness to bring in, then there's a certain set of humility that comes with that. Yes. You look at them with, how can this person contribute to my life right now, right? Because a lot of times when people are like, I'm going to listen to the Elizabeth Gilbert podcast, or, Brené Brown, like they put them in such high esteem. But the truth is they're the same as yes. Brené Brown as well. They equally have that strength. They equally have that glow in themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's why one of my favorite, I love the word namaste. Because like being able to honor and see the light in somebody else with your light is just, it's one of the coolest things I think about being human.
Right. The light in me honors the light in you. The nobleness in me, honors the nobleness in you. Absolutely. Yes. I love namaste.
Yes. How did you begin your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, my dad was an entrepreneur, and I didn't want to be an entrepreneur because, as a kid, you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just rebel. And it's first, I wanted to be a journalist. And so I was a journalist for a couple of years. But in the back of my mind, he just said really gently, you may want to think about business. And after, I graduated from New York University with a degree in journalism, and I was working at CNBC and Bloomberg and a Today Show. And then I realized, like, wow, this really isn't it. This is not what I thought, my life was gonna be like. So I from New York, I moved to California, where my college boyfriend was at the time, and we broke up after 4 years. And I was literally in California for like 3 weeks. He broke up with me, and I really started from scratch. I was working as a barista at Cyber Java Cafe, which was on Abbot Kinney in Venice, and I was getting paid $6 under the table, and figuring it out. I was on unemployment, and I loved it because, when I finally gave up the dream or finally admitted and started telling the truth that, I didn't want to be a journalist, that I started becoming honest, telling the truth. This wasn't right for me. Things started happening. And one of them was opening up to technology. And, my first business was a website design agency. It's a digital marketing agency. But I was doing it in 1999 is when I first started my agency. But that's how I started. It was through a breakup. It's and that's usually how life is, right? It's sort of like this windy road. If it was just from one point to another point, it would have not been as exciting.
And so much of it we can't predict because of that, right?
Yeah, and how exciting, It's exciting to be able to do that. If we were able to predict that soccer ball going into the goal, then how interesting would that be? It wouldn't be interesting at all, But I think mastering the art of letting go, radical acceptance of everything that happens around us, having that courage to let go of those other dreams, or not only letting go, but admitting to yourself that you made a mistake, and telling everyone that you made a mistake. Here I am, I graduated, and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on university education. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. That's what we're here for. Pema Chodron has this wonderful saying that it feels like we're falling, but there's no ground beneath us. So the life is really about that, trying to fly, but realizing that you're not going to hit the ground.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, we recorded an episode earlier today where we were having a similar conversation about, being an entrepreneur is the belief that you might not see the step in front of you, but if you take the chance, you won't fall, because something will show up. Like if you believe that you need to cross the bridge, you might not see the bridge, but you will build it as you go. And through believing it and having faith that you can figure it out along the way, you can build it. And I think that stops some people too, right? Like they want to know what's next. And sometimes we have to try some things. A/B testing, I think, is the the new world of everything.
I think that people need to realize that they can be okay even before everything falls into place.
Yes.
They have to feel okay to be able to pursue peace in the uncertainty, to be able to pursue joy during peculiar, weird times, that even when they don't know, it's okay. All is well.
Yes. Where did your wisdom come from? Has it been a growth for yourself? Are you rooted in a specific religion or spirituality? Is it, a collection of all of mentors and experiences?
I think that there's a wonderful saying, I forgot who said it, but it says, "What you seek seeks you." And I think that I entered this world with the word wisdom, and wisdom is really 9/10 of wisdom is being wise at the right time. So, and being able to learn from other people's mistakes is but as far as like how I, being a container for it, being a space for it, being I don't have a particular religion. I think what they call it, spiritual but not religious. There's like an acronym, right? Spiritual but not religious. That's me, But I think that grounding yourself in meditation, grounding yourself in mindfulness, and allowing the knowledge to come, realizing that you don't have all the answers. It's really the first step to wisdom. Because the truth is, like, as entrepreneurs, it's so easy for us to be arrogant, right? Like, oh yeah, I can say, like, oh my God, like, I have all these awards, like I took down all my awards, like, but that's also staged too, right? You're like, I want to be that award-winning company. I want to be on the cover of those magazines. And, that's what happened, like stuff like that happens. But then you realize, like, that's not what you're here for. You're here to experience life fully. You're here to show up. You're fully in your life and allow everyone else around you to show up as well.
And that takes so much grace and confidence, right? To know your power and leave room for other people's power is, it's definitely it should be probably on the virtue list of how do you, a friend of mine once was told, you walk into a room and you take it over. How can you walk into a room and create space?
Yeah, because if you were just by yourself, it wouldn't be very interesting. It wouldn't.
No.
It would be kind of boring, actually.
How do you and your husband balance both being entrepreneurs and raising a family and managing all of your businesses and creating your dream life together?
I think that for me, it's not making the same mistake twice. If something shows up, even like a symptom, you really try to figure out, like, what was that really about? Was it because I didn't educate them in the process? Is it because they don't understand what web hosting means? Like, it could be applied to anything. Like a story that I tell is, there's one time that I was in a parking lot in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. I was late for a meeting and I was trying to get out, and it was cash only, and who has cash? No one has cash. And I had to back up. You know how that is, right? Everyone's behind you, beeping. Had to be that one, back up, got to go out to the ATM. I was already late, And I thought to myself, like, I never, ever want that to happen again. So what was it, right? Go down to the real symptoms. One, I was already running late. So that means I had not given enough room between one meeting to the next, allowing, for this ease in my life, right? That was one thing. One, I didn't have any cash, like, on me, because I expect credit cards. So now I keep cash with me at all times. And I try to solve my problems, quote, problems, my challenges before they become big, before you're hit by this cosmic 2x4, right?
Yes.
Solve those problems first, because what is that, right? Like, why was I rushing, and now it's like, I asked my assistant to give me more room. So in between meetings, like, I have like at least a half an hour, I take that glass of water. But that's also very intentional, because before I wasn't like that. Before, it was all about achievement. It was just driven behavior, like, okay, check. And then I was really numb to the experience. But now, I want to feel it. I want to enjoy it and realize that I'm still accomplishing really big things without all that frenetic energy around me. Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a way to look busy, but not be efficient, right? Not be actually producing things.
Yeah.
And there, some of the best books I've read come back to, like, what can you really do in a day? Like 3 to 4 things can really get done. And, there's always a battle of, like, to do the emails or not to do the emails, to answer the calls and the texts or not. And, for me, I've had to time block that stuff out. I'm not sure, like, what does your day look like? Like, do you use time blocking? Are you really intentional with your planner? You mentioned the 30-minute window, which I think is super important. How else do you use time throughout the week to have it go where you want it to go?
Oh, I have so many little tricks here and there. Like, so like in the micro way, like I have shortcut keys for everything. So like even things like, I don't know if this ever happens to you, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to put in my email address, right? Before this login. And so I have a shortcut key for my email address, kalika@citrusstudios.com. I type in KY and it comes up. Like I have stuff like that, like throughout I have like shortcuts, you know, like if I have to respond to an email, and it's like someone who wants, branding work, branding assessment, I type in CS and it has this whole, it basically just gives the whole answer to the email. But primarily I utilize my assistant for a lot of my work. I don't handle my calendar. I use Calendly, but before my assistant used to do that, all these like not mind-numbing work, like let's try to figure out when we're going to meet. Like I don't do that. I also don't pick up the phone if there's no scheduled call. Like it just goes straight to voicemail. Because like I've already scheduled my day. I've scheduled my workouts. I've scheduled it all out. And sometimes I'm relieved, when someone says like, oh, let's reschedule, because then I can just take that time for, an additional meditation or something like that. But it's definitely thoughtful, it's deliberate, and it's considerate.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what you kind of built into that share as well is how many things you say no to in a day, right? They might be.
Yes. I say yes to no. So not just saying like, oh, I say no to everything, but it's just like, I say yes to give myself that ease in my life, So rather than it being negative, like, oh, I'm going to say no to that. Like, I'm saying yes to ease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think so many beginning entrepreneurs feel with social media and how connected we are that being available 24/7 is what's needed to get ahead or to be competitive or to deliver the customer service they're looking for. Where my approach is very much like yours of, I want to be intentional and focused when I'm in the things that matter to me that are in the calendar. And I'll tell everybody, I'll be in communication about what it looks like to get back to people and when and how and all those things. So I can be a yes when the time is available versus distracted all day long of like responding to everything.
Yeah, 100%. Like John Wooden, you mentioned earlier. You had some type of quote. It reminded me of John Wooden's quote: "Don't mistake activity for achievement." Like he's greatest of all time coach, and it's true. Like just because you're, stuff to do, don't mistake that for really accomplishing what you need to accomplish. And but also doing it in a way where people don't feel so bad, because there was a time when like I wouldn't answer my emails or, but what I do is I have my assistant check my emails. And so if there's something that's really important, she'll star it. And so I'll know, and I'll take a look at it, because I really don't, I really try not to answer emails. And I also don't try to butt into other people's emails too. There's a lot of times when like, and this is sometimes hard to do when you're CC'd on everything and you're like, you're sort of like, oh gosh, I want to respond. I really try to like, what I try to do is get the monkey off my back. You have to, that's what delegation is all about, and training your team to be able to make decisions how you would, that's what I always try to have them do. That is really probably the best skill. If you weren't there, what is the best decision that they could make when you weren't there? And if you can do that, you really could run so many companies, because, you don't have to worry that they're going to make the wrong mistake. I mean, of course they're going to make mistakes. Like with my waxing salon in Honolulu, I'll give them like carte blanche to like give coupons away. Like if, their esthetician, one of the estheticians is, got sick, but the client comes in, they don't know that they got sick, you give them carte blanche to give them a coupon so that they can make them happy. Yeah.
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 And so much of it is, that's a question people ask a lot. How do I hire people who are clones of myself? And I think you answered that question greatly, of really allowing them to know how you would think and know your why, right? Because if you can come back to the source of the intention and the commitment, then most people can choose something that will work just perfectly for the situation, if not even better than what we would have done.
Yeah, knowing your why is important, but I also think it takes practice. It's sort of like you're in a relay race in the Olympics and you're passing the baton. You know, when you do it the first time, of course, it's going to drop, right? Anticipate it, but don't expect it. But you need deliberate practice. You need to practice it. And then also know that if something does drop, like I remember this one time, my assistant, man, this was years ago. You know, she put in my calendar, you know, to go to an event in West Hollywood. And, you know, I'm in Santa Monica, so it takes like an hour and 15 minutes, hour, 45 minutes, right, to get there. It was supposed to be on Wednesday, not Tuesday. And I showed up and I was just like, I can't believe that I have to drive another hour and 45 minutes back home, whatever. And like, you have to anticipate that, you know, and then, but then I also tried to figure out like, well, what happened here? Why did that mistake happen? You know, and do it in a way where you're curious rather than like pissed, you know, you're just like, I wonder why, like what happened? You know, then you realize like, oh, I see what happened. They changed, you know. They changed the date, the time, you know, and like she did, you know, so now she has something to look out for. Like if there is a change, make sure that it's removed, you know, the first one is removed, you know, it was there twice, you know, they moved it from Tuesday to Wednesday. That's what happened, you know, and a lot of times too is just approaching it with humility, because there are other people who like, you know, terrible bosses that will just be like, what the F, you know, and they assume that your team did something wrong and it's not their fault. Your email didn't go through, your text didn't go through, they didn't know, you know, and I'm always just like, hey, you know, did you get that email? They'd know, you know, and just having humility, you know, because you don't have all the answers, you know, and without a great team, you won't be able to do anything. That's why I feel like I have so much freedom, you know, because of our team. We have an amazing team.
And with all the businesses that you have, you know, when you add up your global team, you know, what size of a team are you coordinating with at this level today?
Yeah, we have like 100 employees, you know, probably throughout, you know.
And that must be a proud moment, right? To know that you're getting, as you're adding up to your 1 million people impacted, even with your own team, to get to about 100.
Yeah.
What made you set the $1 million marks across those 3 categories? Or 1 million people, $1 million, all those markers?
Well, first, I love alliteration, you know, and I mean, so my goal is to help 1 million female founders make $1 million in revenue and create 1 million jobs, you know, because I think that while we could probably do more, it's just nice because it's memorable. Like I remember it. It's not something like some random odd number, you know, and I think that if a woman can make at least $1 million in revenue, they have some type of financial foundation and power, and you know, I believe that they can make tens of millions of dollars, you know, but you have to start somewhere, you know, and I believe that more women need to be in the forefront with their businesses, 100%. Like there's 15 million male entrepreneurs and only 12 million female entrepreneurs, but we're the same, right? Like if it's 50-50, where are all these other 3 million women, you know, where are they? They're waiting in the wings, you know? And can you imagine what the world would look like if there were more women in power, right? If there was more women with financial success, they would be contributing to philanthropies that make a difference, like sex trafficking, I think would be gone, you know? I think that the abuse of women would go down, you know, because we would have women in politics, right? Because if women are giving money to women who are going to be in politics, right? They're the ones who are making decisions. They can do something about it, you know, and they're creating jobs, you know, and they'll hire women like single women who have, you know, who have kids, you know, not just their buddies that they go, you know, gallivanting with. Yeah.
And part of the women in business and women in entrepreneur and even politics space is from my perspective, like, what are we doing for women to be able to do all those things and have families if they choose to? How did you navigate running your businesses and becoming a mother?
In the beginning, I didn't really have, someone to sort of follow. Except my parents. My parents had them thing, but I was an entrepreneur before I became a mom. And when I became pregnant, I almost sold citrus. Like I got a deal book together, like I think in my third or fourth month, because you go kind of crazy,
Yeah.
you're like, there's no way I could do it, And then by the time my seventh month came around and like my hormones sort of cleared, I'm like, what am I doing? And like, I made more money that year than I had ever in all of my other years. And you know why? It's because I got organized. I figured out that, okay. And it became easier. I mean, it wasn't easy because I did have, a kid on my nipple, it is difficult, but I'm so glad I didn't sell my company. But I created a deal book. I was ready to sell. But advice is you can absolutely 100% do it. I think women are incredible. They're hardworking, they're diligent, they're organized. Like we can really do it. We really can, but what happened was my mom came and she helped me. So my mom helped me and I was able to help my kid. I think that if I didn't have my mom, I probably would have gotten postpartum. Yeah. I probably would have gotten some type of issue because it's stressful, and it's good to feel supported. You definitely need a support. Team. Yeah.
And I'm a big advocate of support teams in general for entrepreneurs. I think we need it to not lose our sanity and everything that we go through there as well. What has your support system been like on your entrepreneurial journey between, maybe mentors or friends and family or just peers that you've kept around you for advice, guidance, and maybe some social time or sanity?
So the Entrepreneurs Organization is a group that I joined in 2008. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. So you have to have at least $1 million in revenue to join. And I thought it was a cult, when I first met. And during my interview, I'm just like, are you guys a cult? And they were like, then they started playing. They were like, yeah, you need to sacrifice lamb. And I was just like, oh no. I was like, so like scared, and they're like, just joking. But it's true. There was a video I saw today about this horse that was stuck in the mud. He was stuck in the mud, like all the way up almost to his neck, and he had just literally just gave up. And the herdsmen came around, they were like trying to pull it out. And it was just not going to move because it was trying for hours to get out of this mud. And so their idea was, let's bring the rest of the herd around this horse. And so they started like whipping around their whatever. What are those things that you whip around?
A lasso,
whatever. And then and all the horses, it seemed like hundreds of them were going around and around this horse. And slowly the horse got excited. The horse got energized, and you could see him struggling, but he woke up, and he was just like, I want to be with my pals. And he got up and he did it himself. It wasn't like they took this rope and literally pulled him. He did it himself. He empowered himself to get out of that mud. Like, and you could see how weak he was, and he did it like right when he got out of the mud, like it looked like he was stumbling and then in a couple of seconds he just ran with the rest of the herd, and I think that that's what we need to do. You need to have a herd of people that encourage you by the effort that they make. They may not have to say anything, like, right, the herd didn't say like, yo, get up, it didn't give them any Tony Robbins, whatever quotes or anything. It was just by them being there that they got inspired, that the horse got inspired and got encouraged. But that horse, I hope it was a she empowered herself. She empowered herself to get out.
Yeah. And that's what the entrepreneurship organization's given to you. Similar inspiration and self-empowerment.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs, sometimes, and the hardest part is like now I'm just like, oh, I don't want to hang out with anyone if they're not an entrepreneur. But I also have to sort of put that aside, like when I'm like at volleyball or whatever, like the school club things, I'm just like, oh, like I miss my club. But I have to be open to that too. But because entrepreneurs, they know what you're going through. They suffer through what you suffer through. And they go through the pain, they go through the anxiety, and they still show up. And you learn a lot from them too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and typically they're based on if they're competitive and they are showing up, they're also doing a lot of personal development and growth mindset. And it's a whole package of optimization and looking at like all the secret hacks we can do, or how do we just live our best life? Because to me, your best life comes through having your best business, the freedom it gives you and the opportunities. And it's a different world when you're surrounding yourself with people who are up to something they care about and up to something they're committed to. And, like you mentioned earlier, just that light is shining. Like that light is attractive and encouraging. And I think that's empowering as well, too.
Yes. You definitely have to light up your little corner of the universe. But I also do believe that, people too, like just as how they are, they're already valuable. A lot of times people feel like, oh, I'm not an entrepreneur, or I'm not this, I'm not that, like I also believe that, even just our bodies are just, phenomenal for us to be alive today, so, I don't think people, have to, be a certain, a unicorn, entrepreneur,
yes.
To make a difference, like they're whole and complete, just how they are as well too. But it's we're here to experience, and we're here to make it, we are here to, I think, make a difference and enjoy life. There's a great book by Martin Seligman called Flourish. And he has this acronym, it's called PERMA: positivity, engagement, relationship, meaning, and achievement. In his first book, Authentic Happiness, he talked about, oh yeah, you can just be happy, you can be happy, right? It's positivity. But what the new quality he introduced in Flourish was achievement. Entrepreneurs, people, we want to do something, there's something that's been downloaded in our DNA, there's something that we're here to do, so what is that? What your life is the answer to someone's question. So what is that question? How are you going to show up?
I love that. I love the idea that your life is the answer to someone's question.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful thought. Mm-hmm. When you decided to write your book, how did you come to that? You had all these businesses, things are working. Where did becoming an author become the next step for you?
Well, it went back to the goal of trying to help 1 million female founders, create $1 million in revenue, create 1 million jobs. Because if you don't know who you are, what you do, and why it matters, you can't make that first step, And so this book is all about archetypes. I believe that we fall within 2 archetypes, not just one. And so I created this book to be able to help people just understand their strengths and in a way where it was accessible, because a lot of the branding books sometimes are very either really academic or they don't understand, they have all these other archetypes where it's just like, you're the magician. And you're like, what is a magician? What do you mean by magician? What do you mean by that? So I adapted the archetypes so that it just makes sense. And I gave examples in the book. I gave muses in the book so you can understand the different archetypes. So that's how it came. So it came first with a goal, right? Think, you talked a little bit about the why, like what my why was, like to leave that legacy, and to answer the next question was, what if I wrote a book, that explained it so simply. That's why it's little, it's a little brand book. And I also love alliteration. So it was based on like the little black book, the little black dress, like it's just something that's familiar, so that more women would, who are busy, could pick it up. And you're like, and it's a simple concept, but sometimes the simplest concept can make a big difference. Like for me, when I was exploring archetypes, I didn't know, and this is what I learned from doing research, that one of my strengths was teaching. Because and then I'm thinking to myself, like, why didn't I see it? Because my grandmother and my grandfather and my mother were teachers or educators. But I saw myself as like, I'm an entrepreneur like my dad, but if I had that clear realization when I was younger, I probably would have done something more with it. I'm only teaching now, like in the last couple of years. But if I had, and as part of the Entrepreneurs Organization, I was a learning chair. It was all about learning. You talked a little bit about learning.
Yeah.
I was all about learning, but I didn't see myself as a teacher. I just saw myself as a leader. So that's why in the little brand book, it gives you your two archetypes, right? So I'm the leader plus the maven. So with that, it's another archetype where you can use those two archetypes to drive you in a direction that makes sense for you, that makes sense for your strengths, and maybe you don't have, let's say you don't have a strength in teaching, maybe you have a strength in learning, but maybe you can, come up with, as an entrepreneur, like a software tool, that's related to education and learning, I mean, the sky's the limit from there.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I think what ties into the archetypes and the little brand book and knowing yourself, one of the best quotes that's come out of this podcast so far has been, or prior to your episode, is like a woman who said, the way I became a great entrepreneur was being honest with myself, about myself. Because the more I could be honest about who I was and what I cared about and what drove me, what frustrated me, what my neuroses were, the more I could be honest about who I was to myself, excuse me, it allowed her to be more authentic with her customers and be more authentic with her team and change all the expectations and conversations she was having. And, when people ask like, well, how do I find my niche or what should I be doing? To me, it's like, read your book first. Like, read the little brand book, because having a business or not having a business, just, whether you are want to know more about yourself or know more about your career path or become an entrepreneur and deepen that, to your point of like knowing who you are and the gifts you have to give the world, to me, it starts there, because it's way more fun to make money doing what you do easily and love doing than doing what is challenging.
Yeah. And the idea of honesty, I think, it probably needs to be taken a little bit further, because there's a difference between being honest and telling the truth. Being honest is, I feel like I feel like I'm fat, let's say. I don't know, like that's honest. But telling the truth is, I have 5 pounds I need to lose, right? That's telling the truth. So if that's what she means, then I'm all for it. I think that a lot of times people sort of stop at being honest, right? Like I don't like saying these words. Like I don't have money. Like I don't like saying words like mean, they stick to the walls, but like it's being clear. Like I am $9 in debt, whatever it is, like, you need to tell the truth. And there's a difference between
I love that.
honest and telling the truth. And when you tell the truth, that's when you can take authentic action. Because you could be honest about, I honestly feel this business is not going to work, or whatever weird belief you have, or I'm honest that, this business will work, or I'm honest that I hate this job, whatever it is, right? But when you tell the truth, it looks different. It looks like, I've been in this job for 8 years and I'm making X amount of money, and the truth is I need to be making 4 times more than this, and that's how you create your goals. Yeah.
It leads right into a SMART goal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time sensitive. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we ask everybody on the podcast, when you hear the words powerful and ladies separately, and when you hear them together, what do they mean for you? And do they change when they're on their own versus when they're combined?
I think powerful ladies needs to go together, and it needs to go together more often than not. In the past, I think that we've given up our power because of the environment, but now what a huge opportunity for us to gather it. Mm-hmm. It's important for us to be in power, because we can empower other people. We can encourage other people. We can inspire other women to join that journey. But separate. Yeah, it doesn't make sense separately. I like it together. I like the combination. Congratulations, Kara.
Yeah, thank you. Who are women in your life that have really influenced and inspired you or helped you along the way to the journey that you've been on?
I think that a lot of the people that I look up to, aren't alive, Maya Angelou, she has a really wonderful quote, let nothing dim the light that shines from within. And I think, and in the book, I note a lot of wonderful Nobel laureates, Pulitzer Prize winners, people that probably I don't even know, scientists, neuroscientists, explorers, but all of them, inspire me.
When you look at 8-year-old you, is 8-year-old you surprised at where you've gone in life and what you've achieved so far?
Oh, I actually have, well, it's not 8, but I actually have a photo of myself when I'm like 4 years old. And I think the 8-year-old self was really joyous, was really, I grew up in Hawaii, but at that time, I think I was in Australia. We were in Australia for a couple of years, is joyous. And I think, throughout the journey, it's been really tough, but I think that it's come full circle where, it's gone back to that original joy, as a child, where life feels like it's more like play rather than hard, but I actually have a photo of myself when I'm younger, so that whenever I'm hard on myself, I look at that young girl and think, you have to have compassion for her, because sometimes, we are really hard on ourselves, sometimes we're just like, you got to achieve, you got to do, you got to, do that. But then, I feel that, we go through these different phases in our life, but we are almost like the same person. It's like the soul is going through, through this journey, and Mahatma Gandhi has this great quote: "There's a force within the universe that, if we allow it, will flow through us and produce these miraculous results." So, I don't think that she's surprised. I sometimes when I do meditations, I'll go back in time, when during ages when I had a little bit more difficult time, my early 20s, or, in high school or in 7th grade, and just say, everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be just fine. And it's going to unfold just how it's supposed to be. But as far as surprising, no, I mean,
yeah.
just fun.
It's fun when you're going after the extraordinary life, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And everyone can have it, you know?
Yes, yes. I want people to know they can, to not say I can't, to not say it's for somebody else. Like I really want people to know it and feel it and take actions on it. Because it's a awareness and a knowing that I'm so grateful that I have, and it's the source of so much action and confidence and just faith to go forward and you know, let life be a little bit more of a game, because you know, there's so much room to play with it if we want to.
Yeah, and I think that people can definitely have it all, but it doesn't come wrapped in a neat little bow. You know, it's a little mischievous. Otherwise, it'll be so boring. Like, can you imagine? Like, oh, here it is every single day, it wrapped up in a bowl. Like, there it is. There it is. That would be so uninteresting. You know. But yeah, we absolutely have the infinite potential to do anything, make anything, dream anything, and it's so much more fun that it is mischievous.
Yes, I agree. Well, we had the pleasure of meeting when you were a guest speaker on our panel for a powerful conversation about America, Stop Asian Hate. And I'd love to just check in with you. And since we had that conversation, you know, do you see things changing? Do you see movement for, you know, Asian American women, for the conversation, for what changes do you see, or do you still think we're where we were when we had that conversation a couple months ago?
Oh my goodness. So a couple of weeks ago, literally 2 weeks ago, I had this encounter with someone. I was outside of a nail shop. My daughter was getting her nails done, and I was just chilling in the car Sunday morning. And my dog, who literally got spaded, and so she had a cone on her head, like, you know, kind of pathetic, right? And this woman came and like literally felt like she was driving 20 miles an hour right into my car. And I put my car into reverse, was beeping her, pushed my car back because I was just like, oh my God, I think that you're going to hit my car. Jumps out of her car, comes to my window, just like, how dare you peep at me? Bah. And I had just come from meditation practice. So I was super chill. And I was just looking at her, like everything was like slow motion. I'm just like, you look so familiar. And she was just like, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you speak English? You know, she said that to me. So I put down the window and I said, it's Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Why would you say that? So I said it in perfect English, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh my God, like I'm Persian and my people have suffered more than you, and just screaming, right? And then all these people are walking their dogs and they're just staring. And then she's like, look how you parked, going off and off. So I took a photo of her. Turns out she's an elected official, right?
No.
With the LA Commissioner of Status of Women and Civil Social Action and Human Rights, right? And so a week before that, the LA Mayor's office, reached out to me to be part of their AAPI United initiative. And I was thinking to myself, like, I wonder what so the question in that week was like, I wonder what I should do. And I was thinking maybe a food festival, something very like, I don't know, neutral.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that this incident happened, because it realized to me there's a lot of things that need to change. So I took a photo of her license, realized she lives 2 doors down from me. And I sent her an email and I said, hey, neighbor, is this you? Right? I had already done research on who she was. And she's like the head of West Side regional, like super connected politician. She's running for state assembly, District 50. Okay. So, right. So I gave her 6 hours, contacted my attorney, contacted my other colleague who does AAPI, contacted the mayor's office. No response, right? No response, right? So I posted something on Facebook. Everyone went up in arms, contacted the mayor's office, contacted, everyone. Turns out that her boss, so it turns out she had just resigned because she's running for office, but I know her boss. And so such a small world, I know her, I know her boss really well. Like I've known her for like 20 years. She's just like, Kalika, I thought she was in trouble before, but now that I know she did it to you, like she's in more trouble, made a statement to the mayor's office. And I realized like what my legacy has to be is to educate people in office. Because you think that people in office aren't racist. But these words came so naturally out of her as an immigrant herself, right? It came so naturally out, right? Then turns out that a whole bunch of people DM'd me that they've done that to her, but I'm so happy it happened to me, because what happened if this incident happened to someone who was on the brink of depression, someone who was on the brink of suicide, someone who was on the brink of literally couldn't talk? What would they have done? They would have probably hit their kid. They would have probably continued that abuse, but it stopped with me. And now there's going to be initiatives that are going to prevent this. And I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that she's not in office, because she's not fit until she's educated. She's not fit. She's a prominent journalist. She was an editor of like the Tehran newspaper or whatever. And like, I sent emails notifying everyone, because people in power need to allow people to belong. They belong. She doesn't realize that I'm a United States citizen. I'm a United States citizen. Like, you talk to me like this? This is a Pacific Palisades that this happened. Are you kidding me? She went to Boston University. She went to Pepperdine Law School. Kidding me? Like, and she treats, you know what?
Anyone that way?
Even if I wasn't who I am, like anyone, you should treat as a human being, let alone a politician. So I'm glad it happened to me. So yeah, a lot has happened, and I'm glad it happened to me. And I'm glad that I can be part, not only of the conversation, but of the change.
Well, and I'm sorry that happened to you. And I'm glad that you are the powerful person you are, who can actually turn it into something.
I'm happy.
Good.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy. Yeah.
I'm also really happy you were coming from meditation practice when this happened.
Yeah.
And it also speaks to, like what's missing in everyone's lives where they don't have a space to process the normal stress and anxiety and fears that we go through on a daily basis. Like what would have changed if she, for example, had a meditation practice? What would have changed if she had some other practice like that, didn't cause an explosion like that to happen? And look at the ripple effect it's having on her life.
Yeah. I think it needs to be a requirement for people in office. It needs to be a requirement, because you're right. Like this toxicity will just continue, if she doesn't know how to protect herself or educate herself, or I don't know, it definitely, and a lot of times people are in power because, they want to be held up. It's not servant leadership. They want to do it because they want to pump themselves up, like they're doing it for let's say the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, and I think every entrepreneur needs to know that what they do matters, what they say matters. It matters.
Yeah. I'm going to totally butcher the quote, so this is just me paraphrasing it, but there's the thought behind, if you want to do great things, you have to have a great foundation, and you have to be able to leave room for whatever needs to come in and leave room to process what goes out. And, from the outside in, I think you can see it in the leaders who have that, whether it's, people in your neighborhood, your community, entrepreneurs, politics. Then you can see the people who can take whatever comes at them, digest it, process it, and not spit it back out into the world. Like how balanced and grounded do we have to be so that we can neutralize things to stop, being mindful of stopping the echo of negative and creating an echo of positive on the other side. And so I acknowledge and thank you for doing that work for yourself, because as a powerful woman, like there's so much opportunity to change the world right now. And I'm thankful that you've done all the work to get you to where you are right now so that you're ready to be like, I've got this. I can run with this. I can take it. I can handle it. And I'm going to change it.
Yeah. And it's definitely a journey, not to say that, everyone's going to be perfect, but it's a deliberate practice that needs to be incorporated so that your love and your courage and your audacity can still show up, even through any type of darkness, the life and truth and justice can show up, from within. And that's really what makes life beautiful,
Yes. But I think that's what everyone's asking for to show up, right? The past year and a half has, brought so many challenges and potential darkness, but it's also created so many opportunities for, as you said, servant leadership and for people to show up and to, fill this gap, right? Every time I see something negative in the world, to me, it's just it's a gap. So who wants to step into that gap and create the bridges that we need or create the new structures, the new changes that we need? And part of why I love getting to meet incredible people like you and our other guests through those conversations is to see real life humans that we can talk to who are aware and taking actions and doing the walk, not just the talk.
Yeah, I think that is really important what you just mentioned, because when you do have powerful leaders that you can look up to, so for me, it's like Maya Angelou or Mother Teresa, it's in their presence, you can see who you are. In your community, people can shine, So, and yeah, this year has been hard. This year has challenged us. But even though we're going through it, our heart persists, our strength persists, and we have to remember that. We have to remember the way that we rose above our fears and continue that in the future. It's going to be really exciting. It's very interesting, like how everything's opening up. How are you doing? Like, how do you think, like trend wise, like what do you think business is going to be like after COVID?
Well, I've noticed just from the businesses I have, so many people, like during the pandemic, so many people were calling to say, I want my business to survive, help. Like, I'm finally going to ask for help. I'm finally going to, build a team and be like, okay, I can't do this by myself. So that was great. But now I'm seeing such a shift of people saying, my life shifted so dramatically. I've gotten realigned with my priorities and what matters to me. Like, I'm really making huge shifts of either starting a whole new company or wanting to do nonprofit work. So now it's been really interesting to see people shifting into really wanting to step into more of their purpose and create a life that works for what they want to be creating without compromise. I think people saw by not having a normal year that what we considered normal was not actually extraordinary. So how do we create extraordinary?
Isn't that a relief? Like, I'm so glad that people know how to use Zoom now. Like, it is just so, I'm so relieved, I don't have to go to every single meeting, downtown,
Yeah, especially in LA.
Yes.
Well, we ask everyone on the podcast where they rank themselves in the Powerful Lady scale. If 0 is average everyday human and 10 is the most powerful possible lady, where do you feel you are today in your journey? And is today different than what you would say on average?
I feel like a 10, 11, I feel that we're all powerful. I think that we're here to create. I mean, we are extraordinary human beings. We're the only, species that can make connections. You know what? We're the only species that actually teach, right? Like, so if there's something that we learn in order to make someone else better, we create programs just like the programs that you create. That's extraordinary, right? To be able to help someone else. Other animals really don't do that, like it's very, very unique to humans. to be able to connect in that ways, so that as a whole we become better. But yeah, I think that 10, 11 maybe.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, I think after we reach, a couple hundred episodes, we'll have some good data for some psychologists to see like where everyone ranks themselves and why. But I just love the fact that how gracefully you are in and your power, and you share it with the world, and how generous you are with other people. And yeah, just thank you for being someone who inspires me. And I'm really excited to have everyone get to meet you at a deeper level through this conversation. And for everybody who wants to follow you, support you, contribute to what you're up to, what's coming up next for you, and where can everybody join into what you're doing?
They can go to kalika.com, my first name. I'm at Kalika on Twitter, but I'm really not on Twitter, but Instagram, Kalika Yap. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for allowing us to show up fully for our lives, and, because of your tribe, there are a lot more women who are succeeding, and it is so fantastic that you've created a community to help people show up as their best self, even before we know what tomorrow is going to bring, we don't know. And thank you so much for creating that space, that everything is doable. And thank you for creating that bridge. I love the metaphor of the bridge. I think everyone needs it. Everyone needs support. Thank you for being part of our herd.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And so namaste. And I'm so happy that you were on here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. All the links to connect with Kalika are in our show notes at thepowerfulladies.com/podcast. There you can also leave comments and ask questions about this episode. Want more Powerful Ladies? Come join us at Powerful Ladies on Instagram, where you can also find some free downloads to start being powerful today. Subscribe to this podcast and help us connect with more listeners by leaving us a 5-star rating and review. If you're looking to connect directly with me about private coaching, workshops, or collaborations, please visit karaduffy.com. I would like to thank our producer, composer, and audio engineer, Jordan Duffy. Without her, none of this would be possible. You can follow her on Instagram at Jordan K. Duffy. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, I hope you're taking on being powerful in your life. Go be awesome and up to something you love.